Now, we'd be a little remiss talking about classes and constructors and all of that stuff in JavaScript if we didn't talk about ECMAScript 2015. Because in ECMAScript 2015, we now have classes that we can use. So let me show you how to take what we just did with our task object and turn it into a class in ECMAScript 2015. Now we're going to do this on the Node side, and I'll show you how to lay that out because Node 5 allows me to use classes, but only in strict mode. So you've got to do the use strict up at the top of your JavaScript file. And what that means is that now this operating in strict mode in Node 5 gives me access to some of the ECMAScript 2015 features. And so what I can do now is use the class operator on my object. And so if I take this task, I'm just going to take task and drop it in here into a new class.js. And what I am now allowed to do is I am allowed to use the class keyword, and I can say class task equals. And this is going to start to look a lot more familiar to everybody if you're coming from an object-oriented .NET or Java background, because now I'm going to create my constructor. I just have my class, and now I have a constructor. And that function that I had before in my task.js, my task was actually a function. Now this function becomes my constructor. And so now I have a constructor with this.name and this.completed. Now that's only half of it. I can get rid of my prototypes now and take this function and actually just create my functions. So I've got complete and I've got save. And wrap that all inside of my class. So now ECMAScript 2015 allows me to just create a class with a constructor, and then methods and variables and all of that stuff can be on that task. If I take my main, I'll take these lines of code and drop them in class just so we can execute this and so you can see what it looks like. We'll run this real quick. You see we got an error, and that's because we don't do that anymore. Now we just have that. All right, now let me run it. And you see completing task, saving task, all that stuff still works. It's just a very different way to do pretty much exactly the same thing. And it might be a little more comfortable for some of you coming from a .NET or a Java background. Now you can do this right now using a transpiler. If you're not doing Node, you can use Babel to transpile this down to ECMAScript 5. And what that's going to end up looking like, if I used Babel to transpile this JavaScript file, it's going to come out looking something like this. It'll look a little bit differently because they have reusable code and they call some functions. But ultimately, when you transpile a class that looks like this, it's going to end up coming back over and putting everything on the prototype the same way we do here. All right, so that's ECMAScript 2015 and classes, and you have access to that either through a transpiler like Babel, or if you're using Node 5 or higher and you are running in strict mode.